In this video, we are going to look at perimeter and some basic conversions. Perimeter is the distance or length around a shape. So in this specific shape that we have over here, it's the red line on the outside. So if we want to know what the perimeter of the shape is, we want to know what is the distance around the shape. So we can calculate it as follows. Perimeter equals, and now you need to literally trace your finger around the side to see what we're going to do. We're going to say 2 centimeter plus 3 centimeter plus 4 centimeter. So let's write that down. 2 plus 3 plus 4. From there we go down 3 plus 6 plus 6. So 3 plus 6 plus 6. Adding them all together gives me the distance around the shape, which in this case gives me an amount of 24 centimeters. Don't forget to add the unit in your answer. To make perimeter a bit more challenging, we can leave out some of the sides values, but this is normally fairly easy to figure out. Let's have a look at the shape. The blue one has a length on the side here of 9 centimeters. At the top, however, they give us 4 and 3, but they don't give us this little gap over here. They've left that out. I know that 4 and 3 together gives me 7, and this should be the same as 9 centimeters at the bottom, meaning that the missing little bit is 2 centimeters. So let's check on that again. 4 plus 2 plus 3 must be the same as 9. And if we look at the two sides, they are not the same length because they are 5 and 6, and we can see that the one is definitely a bit higher than the other one. So now that we have all the missing sides, let's go and work out the perimeter of the blue shape. So perimeter of the blue shape, if I trace my finger all the way around, I'm going to get 4 plus 2 plus 2. 4 plus 2 plus 2. I'm going to go up 3 plus 3 plus 6. 3 plus 3 plus 6. Trace your finger around the bottom, 9, and then 5 to close up the shape again. 9 plus 5. Adding all of this together gives me a perimeter of 34 centimeters. Now let's consider the purple shape and see if we can get to a similar answer here. So on this side we have 4 centimeters and 3 centimeters, which means that this whole length over here should be exactly the same, and since 4 and 3 gives me 7, this should be 7 centimeters in length. If we now also look at the top being 6 centimeters and this little bit over here being 2, it means that the missing side at the bottom must be 4, since 4 centimeters and 2 centimeters together gives me 6. Let's just quickly recap that. 4 centimeters and 2 centimeters gives me 6 centimeters, and 4 centimeters and 3 centimeters gives me 7 centimeters. Now we can work out the perimeter of the purple shape, starting at the top. 6 plus 4 plus 2. 6 plus 4 plus 2. Plus 3 plus 4 plus 7. Plus 3 plus 4 plus 7. Always make sure that you don't leave out any of the sides of the shape. So that's once again very important to just trace your finger all the way around the shape. This gives me a perimeter of 26 centimeters. Sometimes the measurements on a shape are not all given in the same unit. Sometimes they may mix millimeters and centimeters or centimeters and meters. So in order to understand this, we first need to stop for a moment and consider conversions. There are 10 millimeters in every centimeter. That's why when I go from millimeters to centimeters, I divide by 10. There are 100 centimeters in a meter. Think of other cent words like century is 100 years, or cents in a rand is 100 cents. So cents should remind you that it's 100. So from centimeters to meters, I divide by 100 because there are lots of centimeters, well, exactly 100, in 1 meter. You might also know that there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. Think about how many times you would have to run around an athletics track or rugby field to do 1 kilometer. So when you work backwards, you apply the same operations but just in reverse. So it's also 1,110, but now you multiply. Since there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer, you multiply by 1,000. Since there are 100 centimeters in a meter, you multiply meters by 100 to go to centimeters. And since there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter, you multiply by 10. You can use your ruler to help you. A lot of rulers show you millimeters and centimeters, and here you can see that there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Let's practice this. Let's consider the first example. If I need to go from centimeters to millimeters, then I need to multiply by 10. Remember, there are lots of millimeters in a centimeter, and therefore you need to multiply by 10. This gives me 67 millimeters. If, on the other hand, I need to go from millimeters to centimeters, 8 millimeters will only be a fraction of a centimeter because 10 millimeters is 1 centimeter, meaning that for the second example, if I divide 8 by 10, I get 0,8 centimeters. 400 meters, or once around the athletics field, is not yet 1 kilometer. So back on my chart here at the top, from meters to kilometers, I need to divide by 1,000. And that will give me 0,4 kilometers. On the other hand, if I go from kilometers to meters, 59 kilometers is a lot of meters, which means I need to multiply by 1,000, meaning that this is 59,000 kilometers. In the next one, we need to go from meters to centimeters. Once again, there's a lot of centimeters in a meter, meaning I need to multiply by 100. Remember, centi, cents, century, 100. And this gives me 8,000 centimeters in a meter. On the other hand, from centimeters to meters, I'm going to divide by 100. Because 5 centimeters on my ruler, as you can see here on the side, is very short. That's not nearly even 1 meter. So this is going to be a fraction of a meter. So 5 divided by 100 is going to give me 0,05 meters. In the next example, there are 2 things here that we haven't seen before. Firstly, they mix centimeters and millimeters, and secondly, they indicate the sides with little lines like this. Now, the one line shows me that all sides indicated with one line will have a length of 1.5 centimeters, and those indicated with a double line will be 20 millimeters. I prefer taking all my units to the smallest measure, since this will mean I don't work with any decimals. So in this case, I'm going to change the 1,5 centimeters to millimeters, and if you remember from the previous page, this is 15 millimeters. It's always a good idea to go and fill it in on all the other sides that are also 15, and also fill it on all the other sides that are equal to 20. Now I can calculate the perimeter of this first shape. So the perimeter here will be 15 times 4, because there are 4 sides that are 15, and 20 times 2. You're also welcome to write out all the 15s and the 20s, but writing it like this is just a teeny tiny bit shorter. When doing this, I will get 60 plus 40, meaning that the perimeter of this first shape is 100 millimeters. Let's consider the second shape. Here we are working with 10 millimeters and 8 centimeters. So I'm going to start off with changing the 8 centimeters to 80 millimeters. Now remember that the opposite side is also 80, since both of them are shown with a little one singular line. And I have 4 sides that are 10 millimeters. So when calculating the perimeter of the second shape, I'm going to say 80 multiplied by 2, because there are 2 sides that are 80, and there are 4 sides that are 10. This means that I will have 160 plus 40, giving me a perimeter of 200 millimeters for my second shape. Now let's consider the last shape. Here I have 2.5 centimeters and 60 millimeters. Once again, I'm going to make them into the smallest measure, which is millimeters, meaning that 2.5 centimeters is 25 millimeters. Here are quite a lot of little ones that are 25 millimeters long. So let's go count them quickly, because writing them in might just become confusing. We're going to count all the little blue lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This means that for this shape, there are 8 lengths of 25 millimeters. Now let's do the same for the 60 millimeters. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I write it underneath each other here, it is 4 lengths of 60 millimeters. If I go and work this out, I get 200 for all the short ones and 240 for all the longer ones. So in total, the perimeter of the shape will be 440 millimeters. The perimeter of a circle is called a circumference. You might also know that within a circle, we distinguish between the diameter, which goes right through the circle, to the center of the circle, and touches on each of the ends of the circle. So that's the diameter. The radius is just from the center of the circle to one of the sides. The radius is half the diameter, and the diameter is double the radius. We often give questions in a table format like this, where you need to compare the radius and the diameter and then calculate the circumference. So if my diameter is 1 centimeter, it means that my radius is just half of that, which is 0.5 centimeters. To calculate the circumference of a circle, we use the following formula. Circumference equals pi multiplied by the diameter. You might have also come across the formula that says circumference is 2 times pi times radius. Remember that 2 radiuses make a diameter, and therefore these two formulas are exactly the same. If we would like to calculate the circumference of a circle with diameter of 1, all we need to do is multiply the diameter of 1 by pi. Now, on your calculator, this is going to give you the pi sign. Remember to press the SD button so that you get the decimal value of 3,141592654, but you can round to 2 decimal places. Also remember the units of centimeters. In the next question, they give us the radius of 4 centimeters, which means that the diameter is just double that, which is 8 centimeters. To calculate the circumference, I'm going to say pi multiplied by 8, since 8 is my diameter. If your calculator gives you a value of 8 pi, remember to press the S to D button, and that will give you 25.13274,123. Once again, we round off to 2 decimal places, and remember the centimeter sign. They can also ask this question backwards, where they give you the circumference and they ask for the diameter and the radius. Since circumference is pi times diameter, it means that circumference divided by pi will give you the diameter. So when I type 72.88 on my calculator and I divide it by pi, let's just write this method down. So 72,88 divided by pi, I get a value of 23,198, which I can round off to 23.2. So let's just do the rounded off value in here, 23,2 centimeters. Half of that is my radius, and that will give me 11,6 centimeters. You could also be asked to calculate parts of circles. Here is a quick summary on the different parts of circles that we can be asked. So firstly, there's half a circle, which means the circumference will be half times pi times diameter. If the shape is closed up, however, like it is the case in this one, you need to add the diameter onto it in order to close up the shape. If you are given 3/4 of a circle, then you can say 3/4 times pi times diameter. In this case, to close up the shape, after you've done 3/4 of the circumference, you have to add a radius and another radius. Similar thing applies when we do a quarter of a circle. So a quarter times pi times diameter is a quarter of the circumference plus radius to add it up. In fact, we can give you any section of a circle that you need to calculate. And all that you need to remember is that since the degrees in a circle, in a full circle, is 360, and this is only 300, the fraction of the circumference that you're going to calculate is 300/360ths times pi times diameter. So that gives us the circumference, and to close up the shape, plus radius plus radius. Let's calculate the example below to find the perimeter of this entire shape. We have a square, 8, 8, and 8, but only 3 sides of the square need to be calculated because the 4th side is not a straight closing up, but it is in fact half a circle. So to calculate the perimeter of this, we are going to say 8 plus 8 plus 8. So these are the 3 sides of the square. And added onto that is a semicircle. To work out a semicircle or half a circle, we're going to say half times pi times the diameter of 8. Adding this all together, we are going to get 35,57 centimeters. In Maths Lit, you are often given questions that have a very big context in which you have to calculate all kinds of different parts of it. The soccer field is one of them. So in this one, there are different things given on the soccer field, and the ultimate question would be to see how much paint is needed to make all the lines on the soccer field. So there are goal areas, there are penalty areas, there are center circles, there are half lines, and some of the measurements have been omitted. So you always start by looking at the picture and filling in what you have, because that will ultimately help you to answer the question. So let's start. We see that the length here is 110, meaning that the length at the bottom will also be 110 meters. If the length on this side is 90 meters, it means that the length on the other side is also 90 meters. The penalty goal is only given on the one side, so the left side will be the same, so that's also 40.3 meters. This top part will also be 16.5, and so will the bottom part. In the penalty goal section, they've given us that this is 11 meters on both sides. and the goal area is 5.5 wide. They have, however, not given us this length over here, but it is possible to work it out. Seeing that this whole section over here is 40.3 and these two little sections are both 11, it's possible to find out what this middle section is. All we need to do is say 40.3 minus 11 minus another 11, and that gives me 18.3. So this little bit is 18.3 meters. So it's just a more complex shape than the ones we did earlier where we had missing things. In this particular question, they also wanted the value of A and B, if you've noticed that. So here at the bottom, we have A, which is the entire outside of the field. So it means it's the official soccer pitch in the middle, but the little 5 meters on the sides where the refs can walk around and where the extra team members are waiting on the bench. So it means that I have the length of the field plus 5 on either side. So that will give me a total length of 120 meters. Similarly, on the side here, we know that the length of the field is 90 meters, but if I add an additional 5 and 5 onto the side, it means that the length of B is 100 meters. All the information will always be given. You just need to look at the particulars that applies to the question that you should be answering. Once again, if you start filling in everything before you look at the questions, it really helps you to make sense of them.